What's up, everybody? Now, I know this is a little different than what we're used to, right? But to kind of give you a quick little just tidbit of what's going on with me. I'm in the middle of fucking moving, man. So it's been kind of hard to sit down and actually sit in front of a camera and record this. So for our next couple episodes, we're gonna do something a little old school. We're just gonna have you sit down, tune in, turn those ears on, right, and hear the message that I am portraying to you, right? So, man, good afternoon, everybody. It's it's a beautiful Thursday. I know. I'm doing this right before Friday, the normal drop day for our podcast. Man, first off, Happy New Year and Happy Holidays and Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas or any other holiday. How was your holiday season? Let me know in the comments down below. We're going to be diving into an awesome topic, and I think you'll agree with just why this has taken so long, and you'll be happy with the results of what you're going to hear today. So again, welcome back to the Jeremy Jeruso podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Jeruso, and today we're diving into how to make 2025 your best year yet. Yeah, I know. Your best year yet. That's not just wishful thinking, right? We're putting together a rock solid game plan to make it happen. If you're watching or listening to this, let me tell you, this is the episode that is going to be loaded with a fuck ton of advice that could easily transform your year, but only if you act upon it. Because let's be real, knowledge without action, it's kind of like owning a gym membership, but never stepping inside. Useless, and that's not how we roll here. Think about it for a second. You tune into this show for one reason, right? Well, maybe two. Maybe you like to see my handsome face and you like to, see what bullshit I'm going to spew out today. But, but you tune into this show to get the nuggets, to get the tactics, the strategies, the life hacks, and the business hacks that help you level up. Some of you are already crushing it and taking small steps and making changes one or two at a time, right? And that's awesome. But then there are those of you who are, let's face it, stuck in this procrastination loop. You know how it goes. You're like, I should do this, or I need to do this, and I'll get it done soon. But instead, you're just gonna let the anxiety build and maybe some depression, and who knows, maybe you start going into vices until you eventually get around to it. And hey, uh, no judgment. You will take action when you're ready, and I respect that. Here's the thing, though. If you're one of those people saying, well, Jeremy, 2025 is going to be my year, I need you to understand one critical truth. Saying it isn't a plan. Let me say it again. Saying it isn't a plan. One of my favorite quotes nails it. Hope is not a plan. So, hoping that 2025 will magically become your best year, that's not enough. You've got to put in the work, intentional, consistent work to make it happen. So, how do we start taking action? Well, it's by getting the right information, the kind that moves the needle in your life, right in the direction that you want to go. And that's exactly what this episode is about. It's going to be your blueprint for crushing 2025. Now, before we dive in, if you're watching this on YouTube, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment below. Seriously, it costs you nothing, but it helps the algorithm push this message to more people who need it. Let's level up together. All right. So with all of that out of the way, let's let's get right into it. So, why do I say 2025 can be your best year? Simple. Throughout life, we have those pivotal moments, those years, those periods, or those seasons where everything just clicks, right? You know what I'm talking about. You look back and you think, "Wow, that year was fucking huge for me." Maybe it was the year you took massive action, achieved big results, strengthened your relationships, you had the money rolling in, you avoided self sabotage, and you cut out distractions like a pro. Then you stop and wonder, well, what made that year so great? Here's the kicker: you can actually reverse engineer that success. And that's exactly what I hope to help you do by sharing the story. Right now, I am 31. Well, not literally today. This past September. This past September. Sorry, English. I can sometimes speak it, but in this moment, I'm 31. Back in 2021, I was 27. This is something I'll dive more into in my upcoming book, The Marathon: How to Master Yourself and Create Your Best Life. Epic name, right? By the way, this is the year that that book gets written and completed, so keep an eye out for it, and trust me, I'll do my best to keep you well informed. The book opens with where I was at in that time of my life. I'm sitting in a bunker in Syria, just straight up not having a good time. And while everybody around me is trying to hold it together amidst the chaos, I was in deep reflection. I thought about everything, what I haven't accomplished, and the mistakes I made, and the opportunities I missed. And let me be real with you, I've done some shitty things in my past. I'm far from perfect. That period of reflection, it it was traumatic, right? Like that whole experience was traumatic, and it eventually led to me developing PTSD. And even now, there are nights where I'll wake up in a panic, thinking I hear stuff, or I'll be out in certain social situations and I feel uncomfortable, and the list goes on. But here's the silver lining: I made it out. Well, clearly, because you and I are having this conversation right now, right? that that period of my life, though, it marked the start of a couple things that I wasn't familiar with in my life. It was the panic attacks, the crippling anxiety, the crazy headaches that even I still get from time to time, which has forced me to confront something important, which is, holy shit, dude, I really need to square my life away. And why did I feel that way? Simple. I didn't have a community to share my struggles with. I didn't feel like I had anyone who genuinely gave a damn. And if I'm being honest with you all, because we're all family here, that that loneliness was brutal. Now, of course, the first thing any doctor wants to do is slap a prescription in your hand, and for me, that was a big no. You'll find out in my book why, but let's just say I wasn't about to hop on the pharmaceutical bandwagon. The system just loves to hand out pills instead of giving you real tactical tools to improve your health and mental state. So a derivative of Xanax was offered to me, and of course, like I just said, I'm going to say no. That's when I started thinking about therapy, and let's enter Dr. Alana Fondren, my therapist. She became my guide. The plan was straightforward. We'd work together, and she'd give me these tools to manage my anxiety, to dealing with the overwhelmed feeling and address the trauma, not just from the military, but things that have been set in stone long before I ever enlisted. She, first off, she did a fucking amazing job. What I thought would be quick couple week process turned into months of work. And that's not me complaining. And what sparked that was she asked a simple question, right? She asked me, is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything in life that bothers you? She didn't push, but I let it slip. As a kid, I was beaten and abused for years. That was the first time I ever said it out loud to someone who didn't already know, right? Growing up, my neighbors and childhood friends knew, but I never openly talked about it before. Alana was incredible. She built this level of trust and rapport that made me feel heard, safe, and understood. For the first time ever, I thought, holy shit, this chick actually cares. She wants to listen. And not just listen. Her job was to give me the tools to handle it all. Naturally, she started poking and prodding gently, and I unloaded everything. Well, yeah, this happened, and then this, and the list kept going. Years of buried pain and experiences just came flooding out, leading to a breaking point. I broke down crying, and as I finally confronted everything, how it all happened, how it was affecting every relationship in my life, I felt broken, shameful, unlovable. Like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. And I didn't want anyone to find out because, in my mind, they'd see me as defective. It's fucked up, isn't it? You're the one that goes through the abuse, but you carry the shame like you're the one who did something wrong. I'm sharing this because the work I did with Alana over those months gave me a huge, huge leap forward in 2024. And it's snowballed even into bigger changes for 2025. Here's the thing, the business plan is always sound. But if the businessman isn't sound, if he isn't structured, whole, or grounded, you're never going to execute that plan. Once I started the healing, monumental changes started happening. My business started to move in a better direction. I got leaner. My relationships started to improve. I stopped self sabotaging every time I hit new levels of success, whether that was with money, relationships, meaning, fame, or authority. Just all these different things started to align. And let me tell you, it's not a coincidence. Life started clicking because I started healing. Now, I'm going to share the game plan with you so you can implement that for this upcoming year. It starts here. Once I felt worthy, and I'm talking about worthy of success, worthy of happiness, worthy of a great relationship, worthy of accomplishment, worthy of building a legacy, it all changed. I felt worthy of writing a book, worthy of getting on this platform and speaking, not just to a camera, but to individuals. And I felt worthy of having a lean, jacked body. When you feel worthy, you fucking execute. But when you don't, you continuously take small, timid steps towards your goal, only to sabotage yourself as soon as you start making progress. You've probably seen this play out in your own life. You say, well, I'm going to start working out more. Uh, I'll get my macro squared away. And for a while, it works. So you lose the 5, the 8, the 12 pounds, and that's awesome. But then, before you hit your big goal, something happens. And it could literally be anything. And suddenly you can't. You can't go forward anymore. You start sliding back, you regain the weight, you fall out of your routine, and you end up back in a rut. So what do you think happened? Do you really believe it was something external? Oh, well, I got the cold, or I had a little injury. Really? Because let's be real. If, let's say you get a shoulder injury, well, You can still train other body parts. You can still eat healthy and stay on track. Even if you have the flu, you can choose clean meals. And if life, well, not if, but when life throws a curveball, you can still knock out push ups, burpees, jog in place. So, what really happened? It's almost always self sabotage. You hit a glass ceiling, a new upper limit in your life, suddenly the results feel good. Whoa, hey, this shit's working. I'm making progress. But then the subconscious kicks in. Do I really deserve this? All of this happens beneath the surface. And before you know it, bam, you're sliding right back down. That that's the cycle of self-sabotage behavior. As I started to heal and become whole, I realized something huge. Hey, guess what? I can actually achieve my goals. And that realization changed everything. I started writing down my goals in the Notes app section on my phone, aiming to level up in every area of my life. At first, these goals weren't super detailed, but as time went on, they became more specific. An example, as an entrepreneur, if my goal is to get 30 new clients by the end of the year, I'll break it down. Okay, well, that's 3 clients a month. Okay, well, technically it's two and a half doing exact math, but you get the point. I can't get half a person. um, I set clear, measurable goals with specific indicators to know what winning looks like. That's the key, being specific. As I'm halfway through 2025, let's say I've signed 15 clients and I know I'm on pace to hit those 30. Well, hell, I might even aim for 60 at that point. But to hit that higher goal, well, now I'll have to double down on accelerated lead generation. I would definitely have to tighten up my sales process and get creative with solutions. But the point is, you can't fix what you don't measure. And this doesn't just apply to business. You've got specific goals in every area of your life. For example, in your health. Well, how lean do you want to be? How strong do you want to feel? How much do you want to weigh? What body fat percentage do you want to maintain? What kind of cardiovascular conditioning do you want to have? What kind of health metrics like blood pressure, resting pulse, overall fitness do you want to hit? Once you answer those questions, you start working towards them. Simple, right? Next, let's talk about family. How much time do you want to spend with your family? How much time do you want to dedicate to your honey? Is it going to be a weekly date night, twice a month, once a month, or maybe even 3 date nights a week? Set those expectations and then work backwards to make them a reality. And of course, let's not forget there's the money piece. You can't just say, oh, well, this is going to be my most profitable year ever. Well, first off, what the fuck does that even mean? If you make one more dollar than you did in 2024, technically, yeah, this is your richest year ever. But let's be real. Does that $1, 4 quarters, fucking 10 dimes change your life? Probably not. Instead, set a specific money goal. For example, you could aim to make an additional $50,000 in 2025 and then break that down. Okay, well, fuck, I've never made 50,000 extra dollars before in my life. How am I going to do this? Maybe it's through solving problems with your product or service, marketing through new channels, building affiliate relationships, and asking for referrals. And referrals, dude, they're fucking gold. Referred clients are easier to close, they pay more, and they stick around longer. So now you've got measurable goals. Well, what are your lead sources? What's your conversion process? How many new sales do you need each week, each month, and each year? If your goal is to make an extra $50,000 or fuck 500,000, it doesn't matter what the number is, the process is still the same. Set the goal, reverse engineer the steps you need to take, and figure out what you need to do daily, weekly, and monthly to hit that number. This isn't just about health, family, or money. It's about something even bigger: meaning. We all want to live meaningful lives. We want to inspire others, want to find a sense of purpose, and feel fulfilled. But what does that actually look like? For me, it's this podcast. This show is absolutely free. The Jeremy Jeruso podcast is my way of giving back, and it allows me to connect with people every single day. Some of you come up to me and you say, "Man, your content has helped me." Like that one specific episode, it helped me realize that I need to stop watching porn. Or that one specific episode helped me get off drugs. Or that one specific episode helped someone dial in their relationship and they became a better man. Or that one specific episode made someone realize that they could set a higher expectations for themselves. They could have higher standards for their life. And you know what? All of this is a byproduct of setting specific goals. Because let me be real, general goals lead to general outcomes. But specific, they lead to exact outcomes that you're after, so long as you measure and track what you expect. Now, you've heard the phrase, inspect what you expect. If you haven't, cool, you heard it first. Here, if you set expectations and regularly check in with them daily, weekly, monthly, you'll hit your annual goals across all four categories, right? That's health, that's family, that's money, and meaning. For me, this podcast is one of the ways of creating meaning. It's a platform to help others level up. Now, let's talk about how you can make 2025 your best year. First step, set specific, measurable, and attainable goals. You've got to break it down. Every day, you need to know what exactly you need to do to achieve your big annual goal. You've heard the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If your big life goal is to eat this elephant, you've got to figure out how many bites you need to take every day, every week, every month. Because if you don't break it down, it becomes overwhelming and it feels impossible. Um, well, I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but do y'all remember those old Tootsie Pop commercials with the owl and the kid? And fuck, it even got to a point where there was like a dinosaur and I think it was like a robot. And they were like, well, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? And they always went, one, two, and then ate the whole thing. Well, you got to track this shit, right? So, number one to setting your goals is being specific. Like, you got to define key performance indicators or KPIs that help you measure success. If you're behind, those KPIs will tell you. If you're winning, those KPIs will confirm it. And if you're losing, they'll show you where to course correct. Well, that's great, Jeremy, but where do I start? Well, I got you. I highly recommend setting goals across these four areas of your life, right? Health, personal, and mental, right? Get your abs. No more dad bod. No more fucking eating McDonald's like multiple times a week. Like, men, you shouldn't have fucking titties. You're a grown man. You're better than that. Family, build those relationships. Money, hit your financial targets. Meaning, create a life of purpose and significance. But here's the thing. Before you can crush these goals, you've got to start with the healing. That means healing from your traumas. I know, full circle moment. When you haven't healed from the mental, physical, or sexual abuse that you've experienced, you're walking around hurt. And I know you've heard this saying before, hurt people hurt people. That's just the reality. When you're walking through life hurt, you carry unseen weight. It's like being a high-end sports car, right? We'll say a Ferrari. Everybody knows what a Ferrari is. Built for speed, power, and excellence. But let's imagine someone removed the spark plug, deflated one of the tires, siphoned over half the gas, and poured water into the tank. Well, you'd start the Ferrari, you'd start life, and you'd think, man, why am I not performing like the Ferrari I am? Like, what the fuck gives? It's because you're carrying around additional weight. You're not optimized, bro. Now, if we put that spark plug back in, replace the fluids with actual gasoline, and inflate the tires, that Ferrari will run exactly as it's designed to do. That that's what healing is. Healing is becoming whole again. That word, or why whole exists, right? To be specific with the word whole. When you become whole, the parts of you that are numb, dead, or dark come back to life. You become optimized. You stop hating yourself. You stop self sabotaging. So, the first place to start after setting your goals is your health goals. Heal yourself from the traumas you've experienced, work with a therapist, dive into the self help resources, read the books. For example, if you had a narcissistic parent, read about dealing with a narcissistic people, or narcissistic people, my bad, and how to heal from that upbringing. Then you take that to a therapist and say, hey, um, I have a narcissistic parent. Let's work through this. If you suffered physical, mental, emotional, or sexual abuse, you've got resources to heal. There's, oh, excuse me. There's a phenomenal book called The Body Keeps Score. Dude, read it, study it, apply it to your fucking life. But don't stop there. Healing is a journey, not a single step. Journal about your experiences. Talk to a therapist regularly. Fuck, read 10 more books. Take a course on how to fall back in love with yourself. Do whatever it takes to heal, because healing creates the outcome you deserve. When you heal and you become whole, you unlock your potential. You become unstoppable, optimized to move forward, just as you were designed to be. You you picking up what I'm putting down, dog? Look, I'm saying this because I fucking love you. And I wish I could tell you, yeah, bro, just set your goals and go after them. Like, here's the truth. If you haven't healed yet, you'll self sabotage well before you ever reach those goals. And I promise it's going to happen every single time. So, what happens? By the end of 2025, you'll look back and say, man, the year started off strong, but at some point, everything fell apart. And you won't even know why. You'll just know that 2025 ended up looking a hell of a lot like 2024. And I don't want that for you. Like I said, we're family here. I want 2025 to be your most monumental fucking year ever. But to make that happen, you've got to heal. Healing means facing your addictions and your vices. It means falling back in love with yourself. It means forgiving and forgetting, not just others, but yourself too. It's about letting go of the hurt that's holding you down, and more importantly, holding you back. When you heal, you stop hurting others and yourself. And finally, you begin to truly live. Once you've done that, it's time for the next step. I like to call this addition by subtraction. Well, let me explain. Addition by subtraction is about removing what doesn't serve you so you can create space, mental, emotional, and time capacity for what does. Think about it. What's cluttering your mind? What's draining your emotions? What's eating up your time? Odds are there's a fuck ton. Here's a wild stat. The average American spends 3 hours a day on social media, and that's just on their phones. We're not counting TV, video games, or anything else. Let's just add another hour for those. So you're looking at 4 hours a day. Gone. Just like that. What if you subtracted that time? What if you cut out your social media time by, or just shit, you cut it down to 30 minutes a day? But I know that's going to be a big step for some of y'all, so just cut it down to 30 minutes, or cut it back 30 minutes a day. Set a goal, be specific. For example, I'll only be on social media for 30 minutes, and it'll be at this time of day. Boom. You just taking the first step towards something incredible. Self mastery. Holy shit. Did I just say fucking self fucking mastery? Yeah, you heard me. Isn't this what this podcast is all about? Health, wealth, mindset? You bet your fucking ass it is. Because here's the thing, you don't want your phone or anything else to become your master. You want to master yourself. That's the goal. Self mastery. And it starts right here, right now. And that's why you have to master your time, your energy, and your emotions. When I talk about self mastery, I'm talking about removing distraction to create more time, mental clarity, and emotional freedom. Let's be real. There are things you want to accomplish, right? But here's the thing, a lot of people will tell you they want to add more to your to-do list, or just add more shit to your to-do list, and 2025 will be your best year yet. Your first thought, just like mine, is, bro, I don't have the fucking time. And like me, you are absolutely right. You don't have the time to pile more shit into your already overflowing plate, especially if you're spending 3 hours a day on social media and the another 1 or 2 hours on TV, video games, or sports. But what if you started subtracting? Subtract the time wasters, subtract the energy drainers, subtract the distractions. Let's talk about the let's talk about relationships for a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. My therapist, Alana, taught me a powerful concept: editing and eliminating relationships. Some people in your life are straight up negative. They're just, there's nothing you can do. They're always going to be negative. They're always going to bitch about something. You know who they are. Maybe it's that friend who constantly bitches, or that family member who just knows how to get right under your fucking skin. These people are time and energy killers. Elimination is cutting them out completely. No calls, no texts, no visits. Poof, they're gone. Editing is for the people you can't or you won't completely cut out. Maybe this is your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, co-workers, whatever. Insert person here. Editing means seeing them less and managing the interactions that you do have. When you're around them, keep it light. Don't dive into topics that irritate you or trigger you. Keep conversations brief and focused on neutral ground. Whether you're editing or eliminating, the goal is still the same. Subtract the people, places, and things that waste your time and drain your energy. This creates space you need to add what truly matters. With this newfound space, you can wake up earlier, you can crush your workouts, prep your meals, and do whatever it takes to become the man or woman who you want to be, right? I know there's plenty of ladies that listen to this. Shout out to y'all that are listening. This is the power of addition by subtraction. So I challenge you to do this. Make a list, write down everything that doesn't serve your goals in 2025. What's holding you back? What's wasting your time? People, places, tasks, obligation, Write all that shit down. Then decide, will you eliminate it? Will you edit it? Will you find a way to reduce its impact? Once you've done that, it's time for step three. Set measurable goals and attack them. And I mean measurable goals in every area of your life: health, family, finances, purpose. Write it down. For years, for fucking years, I've kept notes filled with my goals. I can go back to entries from years ago when I started writing down my goals in my note section in my phone. And some of those goals I've absolutely crushed. Others, I'm gonna be honest with you, not so much. But the act of writing them down and tracking them, that's what turns dreams into reality. And when I missed a goal, I didn't just throw in a towel and say, oh, fuck it, I'll never get it. I course corrected and then I went after it again. That's how I achieve success. But if you're not writing down your goals, not journaling about them, not tracking them, you're not magically going to wake up December 31st, 2025 with everything you've ever wanted, because life doesn't work that way. Addition by subtraction is all about removing the negatives in your life to make space for the positives. First, you have to create the space, eliminate what's holding you back from taking actions you need. Then, two, take those actions. Three, improve the efficiency of those actions. Four, unlock compounding by not stopping. Keep building on the progress you've made. Step one is the key: elimination. Get rid of the distractions. The election's over. Go back to work. No president, no politician is going to make you rich or successful. That is solely on you, no matter what side of the aisle you support. It's time to eliminate everything that isn't driving you towards your goals. Let's talk about focus. Focus isn't about piling more onto your plate. It's about saying no to everything else. True focus in its purest form is doing one thing and only one thing. Think about somebody who hyper focuses on video games. They don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't talk to people. All they do is game. That's the focus taken to the extreme. Now, I'm not saying you should go to that level, but here's the takeaway. Focus means cutting out everything else. Eliminate the distractions, and what remains is your focus. So, back to business. You're not out of the game until they've padlocked the doors and physically stopped you from fucking working. Too many people think they failed when they just hit a roadblock. Rejected 100 times, you're still in the game. Faced a setback, still in the game. You're only done when you stop showing up. Here's the truth. Rich people buy time, poor people buy stuff, ambitious people buy skills, lazy people buy distractions. Want a prediction for your 2025? Look at where you're spending your money and your time. Your calendar and your bank account don't lie. They tell you the story of your priorities. If you're not where you want to be at the end of the year, the reasons will be crystal clear when you look back. We vote with our dollars and our schedules for the person we want to become. Let me tell you a story. Over the past 5 years, I've spent well over $10,000 on self-improvement. When I first started, people in my life asked, why the fuck would you pay someone else to help you become a better person, or a businessman, or a trainer, or a speaker, or a writer? And yet, here I am, leveling up every single year, while those same people are still stuck in the same place they were 5 years ago. That is fucking tragic. This is the power of identity. Your priorities dictate your identity. Not what you say, but what you do. When I decided to become a better version of myself, I didn't just talk about it, I backed my shit up with action. I set aside money every year to invest in becoming into that person I envisioned. And now, I am that fucking guy. That's my identity, authentic to its core, because I put in the reps. And I'll keep investing in myself because that's who I've chosen to be. The mistake people make is thinking, I'll just see if this happens. But that's not how it works. You have to decide right now the type of person you want to become. Then take the actions that that person would take. Align your calendar and your budget with those goals so your investments lead to the results you want. Here's the formula, really easy. Dedicate your time to improving one thing. Dedicate your money to getting better at that one thing. Eliminate all other expenses, whether that's time or money that don't align with your goal. If you do that, I can guarantee you this. By the end of the year, you'll have made significant progress, achieved your goal, and gained the skills you need to go even further. The problem is, most people want the results without making the investment. They dream about owning Apple, but never buy the stock. Don't be that fucking person. If you want to become that version of yourself, the one who achieves their goals, you need to start by buying that stock today. And by buying that stock, I mean investing both your time and your money to vote with your actions for the things you truly care about. And the reason I'm hitting this so fucking hard is simple. It has never been easier to be successful, but it has also never been easier to be distracted. So, along with the theme of investing in what matters most, the first thing we need to do is eliminate all the stuff that fucking sucks. I define commitment as the elimination of alternatives. Let me explain. If you get married, you eliminate all other people, not just the one you were attracted to, all other people who aren't your partner. That's a commitment. The same applies to business. If you enter a partnership and commit to focusing on a specific goal, business, you're saying, I'm not going to pursue any other ventures besides this one. That's the elimination of alternatives. Commitment means saying, this is it. This is the thing I'm dedicating my energy to. Nothing else matters. If you want someone to commit, ask them to eliminate everything else that's not the main thing. Think about all the things that are likely getting in your way of your goals. A laundry list of shit that's probably not your main thing. These distractions are what I see often in either DMs or comments or just people that talk to me on a day-to-day basis who aren't getting where they want to go as fast as they'd like. The first big category, holy shit, is bad friends. If you want better friends, get used to seeing them less. Better friends are busy friends. Now, here are 5 questions adapted from a super viral Reddit thread about relationships that I think apply just as strongly to friendships. These will help you evaluate the quality of people you surround yourself with. One, if someone told you that you're a lot like your friend, would you take that as a compliment? Two, are you truly fulfilled by the friendship, or is it someone you keep to keep you from being lonely? Three, are you able to be unapologetically yourself, or do you feel the need to act differently to please that friend or to fit in? Do you like who this friend is right now, or do you just like the idea of who they could be someday? And lastly, would you want your future or imagined child to be friends with someone like this person? These questions are fucking powerful um, limit tests because they force you to step outside yourself and take an objective look at the true quality of your friendship. Here's the reality: rare people are, by definition, rare. It's normal to have fewer of them in your life. If you only have a few good friends, or even just one, that's normal. If you're aiming for rare and exceptional relationships on the flip side, you, you know, on the flip side, If you have a ton of friends, it's far more likely that the bar for your friendships is just too fucking low. Now, here's the filter I use for identifying the most important people in my life, like my girlfriend. I ask myself, does this person have the same scale of goals that I have? It doesn't mean your friends need to have the same goals as you, but they do need to have goals on the same level. Why? Because at least then you're going in the same direction. That's step one. Step two is, do they have the same level of dedication and commitment to those goals? I don't know about you, but I've had plenty of friends who've said things to me like, oh, I want to be an NFL player. Or I want to be a really rich, like, techie entrepreneur. You know, I've really thought about and want to be a touring musician. And I would look at them and be like, dude, you're playing Fortnite for 4 hours a day and hitting the gym once a week. Like, do you really want that? Or do you just like saying it because it makes you feel good? I wanted people who walked the walk, people who would keep up with my pace. If you're someone who's ambitious, and if you're still with me, chances are you are, you have to get used to being alone. There are seasons in life where you'll transition from one group of friends to another, and let me tell you, it's not always going to be a smooth handoff. Sometimes you move from one group of friends to no friends. Eventually, you'll find one or two people who are operating on your level. Sometimes those people will introduce you to others in their circle, but if you keep walking, keep outpacing, that group will fall off as well. Maybe one person stays with you, maybe no one does. I'm saying this because I used to think that there was something wrong with me. Like, why don't I fit in? But here's the truth, I just didn't understand the nature of being exceptional. To be exceptional means you are the exception. It means you are not normal. And guess what? It's normal for normal people to find you abnormal when you're doing things that aren't normal. I'll say it again. It means you're not normal. And guess what? It's normal for normal people to find you abnormal if you're doing things that aren't normal. Don't let people with mediocre goals deter you from taking actions that make you great, even if those actions make you different. At some point, I realized most people don't make any fucking sense. They say they have these big goals, but then they take no action. Meanwhile, they'll call me work obsessed and tell me to take time off. They'd say, "Dude, you're not as cool anymore. You're not hanging out with the boys." Well, here's the deal. There are going to be times when you have to tell the boys, "No, I'm not watching the basketball game with you because I have to work on my business." And some people just won't understand that. I looked at that basketball game, and this is immediately what I thought. My goals are more important than this. Here's what I think a lot of people don't do. They don't look at themselves in the mirror and ask, 1 year from now, will I really remember this game? Or will I remember the fact that I'm not where I said I wanted to be? For me, not being where I wanted to be was significantly more painful. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth, your ability to delay gratification is actually a function of intelligence. Think about it. If you want to teach a monkey to do something, you give them a reward immediately after taking the action. The longer the delay between the action and reward, the harder it is to train them. Humans aren't much different. The ability to expand that reinforcement window to work without needing an immediate payoff is a sign of intelligence. If you want to practice intelligence, learn to delay gratification. It's not easy, but it will make you smarter and more effective. Your rate of learning increases because you're not chasing the quick wins. You're playing the long game. Let me give you a full transparency about what 2025 might look if you stay committed to your goals. You might have a different group of friends by the end of the year. You might have no friends at all for a season. And here's why. You don't become like the people you admire. You become like the people you want to impress. There was a Harvard conducted survey study on this years ago and founded that the best predictor of someone's long term material success wasn't the five people they spend most time with, as it's often misquoted. It's actually their reference group, the people they compare themselves to and want to impress. It's actually the five people you compare yourself to, not the five people you spend the most time with. That is a huge difference. And if we take a step further, it's not even just about comparison. It's about the people you want to impress, the ones whose voices you hear when you're about to make a big decision. Here's the kicker. When you're making a life changing decision, you don't listen to the people who are closest to you. You listen to the people that are closest to your goals. And guess what? Those people may not even be in your city, your state, your high school, or college. They might just be people who follow online. You ask yourself, what would that person think about this decision? Not your mom, not your homie, not your uncle, not someone from church. Instead of mentors, think of heroes. People whose decision making framework you can apply to your life. Here's a real example. I'll have conversations with other entrepreneurs who tell me, well, this is my current situation. This is where I want to go. This is what I think is in my way. I'll ask, well, what do you think I'd tell you to do? And they almost always reply, well, knowing you, you'd probably tell me to do XYZ. And I'll say, exactly. So why aren't you doing it? Their response usually boils down to this. They're worried about opinions from other people who aren't even at the same level that they want to reach. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners, and you'll never get hate from the people above you. It always comes from below. Why? Because winners have their eyes on the goal, not other people. So here's your decision. Do you want to be a loser or a winner? I'm just being fucking real with you. If your eyes are locked on your goal, you literally won't have time for anyone else. I promise you. Here's how it plays out in real life and how it might look for you in 2025. First, you look like an idiot to everyone else while you're figuring it out. Later, everyone else looks like the idiot forever doubting you. And here's the truth. Everyone takes a different amount of time to stop giving a fuck about what other people think. If you're going to reach that mindset eventually, why not start today? Like, why not enjoy the benefits for longer instead of waiting until you're like, I don't know, 85 and realizing, damn, I should have started sooner. So here's the cheat code. Think about what your future wiser self would tell you right now. Like, imagine being 85, looking back and saying, man, I wish I knew then what I know now. Instead, flip it. Look forward to your 85-year-old self and say, I'm going to act today as if I already knew and know the lessons I'll learn by then. Elimination plays a huge role in this. Start with the bad friends and the noise they bring into your life. Their opinions, they don't fucking matter. If their voices are drowning out your focus or steering your directions, cut them off. Next, think about what else is interfering with your time and attention. Your environment plays a massive role in how effective you are. Can you sit still, ignore notifications, and focus on one task for hours or even days on end? If not, don't expect to build something great. That's just the harsh truth. Every incredible, successful entrepreneur I know has hyper focus periods, whether it's spending a weekend coding software, crafting a killer marketing campaign, fine tuning a product, or scaling a business through relentless hiring. They lock the fuck in. They shut out the world, no distractions, just pure focus. And that's the level of commitment you need if you're serious about creating your best year yet. No excuses, no half measures, just relentless execution. If you can't sit still, if you can't ignore notifications, or focus for a full day, nothing great will ever get accomplished. And it's not about what you want to do, it's about what's required. Whether it's your best or not, doesn't matter. There's a price tag for success, and if you're not willing to pay it, you don't get the thing. It's not glamorous and it's not always fun, but success demands sacrifices, time, comfort, and sometimes even things you're passionate about. I want to break down the myth of following your passion for a second because it's one of the most misleading pieces of advice out there. Here's why. Successful people often delegate what they dislike and only focus on their strengths. Then they sit back and say, see, just follow your passion. But they're not telling you what they did to get to that point. I can tell you for me, it was sleepless nights, the grind, and the sacrifices. When you're climbing to the next level, you're going to take on things you don't know how to do. And you're going to suck at them. And sucking sucks. But you've got to push through it because that's the cost of greatness. So, how do you eliminate distractions and create hyperfocus? Start with your phone. It's probably the number one time suck in your fucking life. Here are three simple steps to take control. Turn on Do Not Disturb mode. Set up a zero disturb mode where no one can contact you. Most phones have this feature. It's awesome. Grayscale display. Switch your phone to grayscale. Research shows it decreases your desire to pick up your phone by 30%. Bright colors are designed to lure you in. The grayscale eliminates that. Also, for those that are marketing out there, you probably already knew this. And if you didn't know that, the more you know. 3. Physical distance. Remove your phone from your space entirely. Put it in another room. You'll notice phantom vibrations and impulses to check it. This is literally proof on how addicted you really are. Another critical step, turn off all notifications. No pings, no vibrations, no alerts. Let me ask you this. Is there anything on social media urgent? Is there any text message truly an emergency? Because if it is, now dial 911. If not, it can wait. Full information on your terms, not when the app decides it's convenient. People will interrupt you based off their priorities, not yours. Don't let them. When you take control of your environment and your time, you take control of your outcomes. That's how you create focus, eliminate distractions, and start by making 2025 your best year yet. If you're living on other people's timelines and priorities, you're going to end up achieving what's important to them, not what's important to you. That's why it's crucial and critical to set boundaries and eliminate unnecessary channels of communication. Simplify your life and focus your energy on your goals. Here's a reality check. Everything is always harder, takes longer, and costs more than you think. It's not because reality is bad. It's because our expectations are often unrealistic. And that's okay. If it were easy, everyone would do it, and the rewards wouldn't be worth as much. The difficulty of the task is proportional to the value of the reward. The harder the journey, the more you grow. And that growth is the true asset. Every challenge you conquer makes you stronger and harder to replicate. The higher the climb, the few people can follow, and the rarer the view becomes. Speaking of expectations, let's talk about the most damaging one: entitlement, the belief that life owes you something without you earning it. There's a quote you've probably heard: hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Right now, we're in a period of good times. And that's why I see so many fucking weak people. But here's the good news: it's really easy to stand out. Show up on time, prepare the night before, remember people's names, follow through with what you say, and actually put in the effort. It's not rocket science, but it's rare. Now, here's something I see all the time: people asking for credit for just trying. They'll tell me, hey, I tried really hard. Listen, the world doesn't reward effort, it rewards results. Period. If you're frustrated with how hard something is, ask yourself, did I expect this to be easier? It's like going to buy Jordans with 50 bucks in your pocket, right? Only to find out they cost $300. Now you have two choices: decide that they're not for you, or put in the work to earn the difference. Success is no difference. It has a price, and that price is time, effort, rejection, and persistence. And let's not forget, we only see people's highlight reels. We celebrate the finish line, but barely acknowledge the grueling race it took to get there. Think about a marathon, kind of like the book title. Where do spectators stand? At the finish line. Not along the miles of sweat and struggle, but you are running your own marathon. And if you focus on the climb, on embracing the challenges, building strength, and conquering false expectations, you'll reach heights others can only fucking dream of. They stand at the starting line and they stand at the finish line. The perception of how long the race takes is based on the fleeting moments, the initial burst of energy at the start of the triumphant victory at the end. But no one's paying attention to the mundane middle. That's where the real work happens. It's the hours, the weeks, the months, hell, even years no one sees. The grind, the sacrifices, the repetition. That's what separates the good from the great. And let's be honest, the middle part, it's always harder, takes longer, and costs more than anyone expects. Here's the thing: it's easy to beat people nowadays. You just have to start running and keep running. The problem is, most people sprint out of the gate, fueled by the illusion that success happens quickly because it only sees the highlights, right? The start and the finish. But when reality sets in, the road stretches ahead, endless and empty. They burn out. So what do? You pace yourself. Success isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. You have to be ready for the long haul, prepared to conquer the middle ground that others overlook and plenty give up on. Now, let's talk about another nasty obstacle: the identity you've created for yourself, the isms you cling on to. Statements like, oh, I'm just not techie, or I've never been good at math. These beliefs don't serve you, they sabotage you. Here's the harsh truth: everything in your life, every action, person, or belief either moves you closer to your goals or pushes you further away. That's the razor you need to apply to every decision. Does this help or hinder my progress? Let me give you an example. I used to believe I was really fucking bad at math. It literally took one bad teacher in high school to set me back. Uh, I don't remember his name, but I remember that like stupid porno 80s fucking mustache he had, and that eventually he got in trouble for being a creep to little girls. Irony, not really. Predictable, very much so. So I let that define belief, me being shitty at math, define me for years. I was just like, yeah, I'm just not good at math. And I left it as that. But then I realized that mindset was holding me back. So I decided to change it. I asked myself, okay, well, what would it take for me to feel confident in math? Then I put in the work. I wasn't inherently bad at math. I've just been on a bad trajectory and hadn't taken the steps to correct it. Once I did, the belief shattered. We're so much more pliable than we give ourselves credit for. A bad experience or a disadvantage in your past doesn't define you. Everyone has their struggles, their challenges, whatever. If you want the award for the hardest childhood, congratulations. You can take it. But then what? Because here's the thing, no one cares about what happened to you then. What matters is what you do with your life now. We're defined not by our past, but by our actions. So let's drop the excuses. Let's rewrite the narratives. Let's focus on the choices that bring us closer to our goals and leave everything else behind. The mundane middle is where champions are made. Doing is being. If you want to be different, you have to do different. It's that simple. People will only ever describe you based off the actions you take. Think about it. Back in the day, people were literally named after what they did. Oh, John? John the carpenter. Oh, Bob? Bob the fucking stonesmith. Oh, and his wife, Betty? Yeah, that's the mason. Well, fast forward to today. What is the first question we ask when meeting someone? It's still the same. Hey, bro, what do you do? That question gives you clues about who they are. And when we describe someone to others, we talk about what they do. So here's the kicker, your identity is 100% under your control. Why? Because you control what you do. And once you do the thing consistently, the identity follows. Now, we've already talked about clearing the clutter, removing distractions like excessive phone use, and noise from bad environments. We've addressed eliminating toxic relationships and the opinions of others that influence us negatively. So, what's left? Now we've made room to build. Here's the best news. You only need three things to win: the ball to start, the brains to learn, and the heart to never give up. That is literally all it takes. And the best part is, you already have all three. Ladies, don't worry, you've got no gonads. It's science. It counts. Here's my ask: make the commitment, but let's redefine what commitment actually means. It's not just saying, I'll try, it's not hoping things will work out. Commitment is the elimination of alternatives. When you truly commit, you take everything else off the table. No excuses, no plan B. Plan A is the only plan. But here's the twist. I'm not asking you to commit to success. I'm asking you to commit to never stopping. Success is the byproduct of refusing to quit. If you don't stop, you can't fail. It's that simple. The only way you lose is if you throw in the towel. And guess what? You're better than that. How do I know that? Because you're listening to this podcast. I'm asking you to commit, to keep running, to keep walking the marathon. Even if you're panting, even if you have to slow down, you just can't stop. The best way to crush next year's goals: stop waiting for next year. Start now. If you think you need a special occasion to start making your life better, you're telling yourself a lie. That lie assumes that a special occasion must always exist for you to improve. It says today isn't worth it. And when you buy into that, you'll always push progress forward to someday. The simplest way to flip the script: act like today is the only day that matters, because it is. It's the only day that you have any control over. That's why I'm putting this out now. Like, yes, the year started, but think about it. If you had a winning lottery ticket, would you wait to cash it in? Of course not. You'd sprint to the counter. That ticket, it's the life you want, the one waiting for you on the other side of action. So why wait? Here's the harsh truth: you're young. You've got time. That is fucking bullshit. That lie only delays the moment people realize tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Nothing worth having comes easy. Get over it. It takes time to get good at anything. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll get there. The sooner you act, the sooner you win. And don't stop until you do. But here's the good news: it doesn't take forever. In fact, it only takes 20 hours of focused effort to get decent at something. That's it. 20 hours. The problem? Most people wait years to even start their first hour. So why not now? Why not start ticking off next year's goals before this year even ends? 20 hours isn't even that long, bro. And your future self, they'll thank you for starting today. If you're like, but gee, I really want to learn ads. I really want to learn how to make content. I really want to learn how to edit videos. And I really want to learn how to sell. Well, guess what? You can do all that right now. You have that skill. We can, fuck, you can always onboard a new sales guys in a few days. It's, there's just massive delay that people think exists because of the unknown. They don't know what's going to happen, and so they'll assume it's bad. The reality is most people don't like surprises, even if they're good ones. Like, I've heard this. So have you ever had people tell you, "Oh, I don't like surprise parties"? Like, it's a fucking surprise party. Why would you hate a surprise party that's in your favor? You hate it because you don't like the unknown. And so it's really a good thing to test for yourself. Why would I hate a good surprise? You hate it because there's a probability that the surprise is negative. But on the long time horizon, right? 85-year-old you, yeah, you forgot about that, but 85-year-old you, you're not even going to remember it to begin with. I tend to have a bad habit of not looking back very much, and it's one of my goals that I want to get better with this year. So I'll go through photos and I get reminded of all the mistakes and detours I took along the way to where I wanted to go. And a lot of people right now are judging the fact that they didn't succeed because they think that some innate trait, right? Like, oh, well, I'm not smart enough or I'm not good enough. Like, bro, fuck that. You are good enough. You are smart enough. But sometimes you just lack a few, like, skills. Like, if you're trying to learn calculus and never done arithmetic before, it's going to be really hard, dare I say, fucking impossible. If you jump straight into calculus, you're not going to win. Sometimes you have to just take two steps back in order to build a foundation to move forward. It's not about the resources you have, it's about how resourceful you're willing to be. Right now, getting started is 100% under your control. And I love taking this frame. Every self made billionaire is self made. Now, if you're like, wait, there are billionaires who aren't self made, bro. Right. That's why I didn't say all billionaires, just that every self made billionaire is self made. And every self made millionaire is self made. And here's one people don't like. Every self made person in poverty is self made. Now, that might make you feel uncomfortable. And you know what? You're right. You probably did have more disadvantages. You probably did have things that worked against you. And now what? So that's it? Like, that's it for you. The rest of your life will never go the way you want it to go. The is if you want to feel better, go ahead and blame others. If you want to get better, blame yourself. My father told me that simple story multiple times in my life, as I'm sure your fathers or parent or uncle or brother or someone that is big and meaningful to you has told you a story like this. And so we've seen so many entrepreneurs who have lived through this cycle. It's actually a common thing in entrepreneurship because you have to understand and respect risk. The beauty is that after you fail, the likelihood of being successful goes up and not down. This is the part that people miss. They fail and think it somehow just like decreases the likelihood of success, but actually it increases it. So you want to get all those failures out the way. Why would you not want something that increases the likelihood of achieving your goal? The reason failure increases the likelihood is because we we notice and we realize that it is a prerequisite probability for taking action. Anyone who has failed has taken way more action than someone who's done nothing, which means it increases the likelihood of success. So when you fail, you get feedback. And when you get feedback, you get better. And when you get better, it increases your chances of winning. See, losers become losers by never being willing to lose. And I'm going to say that again. Losers stay losers by never being willing to lose. Everyone loses before they win. There's this man. So if you've never watched The Matrix, go watch it. My dad showed me The Matrix when I was young, and it easily became one of my favorite movies of all time. So the famous jump, right? There's a part in the movie where Neo, he's supposed to be the one, tries leaping across buildings while everyone watches because, again, they think he's the one. So what happens, right? He takes the jump and he falls. And they're like, well, what does that mean? Well, what does it mean? As one of the guys in the movie who eventually ended up being like the Judas of this said, well, everybody falls their first time. And even the one or the person who was going to become the one was somebody who had to fail first. And I fucking love that because everyone falls their first time. You fail your first time. Your first business is very unlikely to be your last business. The first product you have will be a product that you're embarrassed of years from now. But what's important is having the product, getting the product, building the product, launching the product, shooting the shot. So if you're never willing to lose, you're never going to win. So in 2025, let's say you want to start a podcast, you start making content, you start doing cold outbound if you're on sales, or you take a new job, or whatever it is. Just remember that your second try after you fail, which you inevitably will, takes twice the emotional effort, but half the actual effort. So you'll fail and you'll emotionally feel bad, but guess what? You did. You actually gripped your hands on the unknown. And you go from unknown optimism, right, to now known pessimism. So it's like, okay, now I know what it takes. I now have realistic expectations of what is required in order to be successful. And although it may be bigger than I originally thought, but I now can quantify what is required to win. The best entrepreneurs in the world had the biggest failure resumes. And so, I mean, I don't even want you to win. I want you to stack up failures. And I want you to build your failure resume. So, Jeff Bezos said this: we all know that if you swing for the fences, you're going to strike out a lot, but you're also going to hit some home runs. So, the difference between baseball and business is that when you swing, no matter how well you connect with the ball, most runs you can hit is four. But in business, every once in a while, when you step up to the plate, you can score 1,000 runs. This long tail of distribution of returns is why it's important to be bold. Big winners pay for many experiments. And when he says big winners pay, they pay in failures. They pay in the scars that they have to incur and endure along to hitting it out of the park and hitting it out so big that you never have to swing again. I want to make this as real as possible. I want to make this as real as I possibly can. Right before recording this, I found an old note from myself to myself from 10 years ago, and I talked about the money I wanted to make and what I considered would be a big deal. Disclaimer: I'm making it now. And reading it actually got me pretty choked up because at that point in my life, I thought that would be a big deal. And all this is to say that no matter where you're at in your journey, you've got to believe with all of your fucking heart that you're going to make it because no one else is going to believe it for you. Because you can never expect someone to invest in you more than you invest in yourself. So we've eliminated distractions, all the things that keep us from doing the shit we need to do. And now, hopefully, I've helped you remove some of the mental BS around getting started. Once you start, you've got to get better. Connections, money, looks, intelligence. I'll be honest with you, like all these things are great, but you can beat someone who has all of those if you just have one trait: the constant desire to improve. No matter where they start, it's hard to beat someone who improves every second of every day without giving up. This is why I said earlier that ambitious people buy skills and pay for those skills with time and money. And in order to have the time and money to invest in those skills, you have to take them from somewhere else because your resources are zero sum. That's something a lot of people aren't comfortable with. Whatever you choose to spend your time on, you take from something else. Whatever you choose to spend your money on, you take from something else. Most people don't have like a resources issue. They have a priorities problem. You're choosing to say that other things are more important. And hey, let's be real. If that other stuff is really important, like it's more important to you, then amazing. You're winning at life. Congratulations. But if you don't have what you want, yet you're willing to spend money on a life you don't really want to lead, then you just need to shift your list. You need to invest the time and money and pull from things that you don't want and put more into the things that you do want. One of the easiest ways to have more money, ready, is to work more. You're like, well, how is that possible? Well, when you work more hours, it kills two birds with one stone. First, you make more money by working more, duh. But secondly, you don't spend the money because you have less time to spend it. So every hour of work is a net positive in two directions. It saves you money and it makes you money. You want to find those little twists in how you invest your time and money that delivered outsized returns. It's not just about what you gain, you also stop the loss. See, I've always been willing to bet big on myself. I mean, fuck, one of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song from Russ, is Money on Me because he says, I put my money on me, I bet on myself. And a lot of you guys are trying to bet big on Dogecoin or some meme or some get rich quick scheme. And I fucking promise you, the guys who actually have the money know how to do it better than you. And if you have your last 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 and you're like, well, what do I do with it? Homie, bet on you because you will never sell you. You're the long term hold, right? And if you get better, you guarantee the win. Every investment you make compounds. You guarantee compounding because every skill stacks on top of other skills. Steve Jobs talked about this when he went to college and learned calligraphy. It was the reason fonts showed up in the Mac later, right? He said, and which is one of my favorite fucking quotes, he said you can only connect the dots looking back. And that's why you want to double down on investing more into you, into getting skills. Whenever I've had a big transition in my life, it's not just about being willing to bet my money and my time, but I've also bet with my geographic location. I'm willing to risk losing the relationships I had to gain the relationships I need. And so 2025 for you might mean that you have to leave where you're at. That could mean moving across town, across the country, or fuck, even across the ocean. It may mean that you're going to take all the money you used to spend in one place and start spending it in a totally different way. And you'll probably have less stuff, and that's okay because that stuff only deteriorates while you keep getting better. The reality is that anyone can get rich fast as long as you're willing to make no money for a long period of time while you work to get good enough to get rich fast. Cool story, right? So I saw this video where the salesman who wrote $1 million on a whiteboard in front of an audience. Actually, it might have been something Alex Hormozy posted, but either way, I'm watching this video, and then he returned to the lady in the front row and asked, "Well, how much do you want to make, ma'am?" And she said, my bad. He said, "How much do you make, ma'am?" And she said, I make about $50,000 a year." And he said, "Oh, okay. Well, right now you pay reality $950,000, $100,000 a year. for not knowing how to make $1 million. When I saw that, I realized the value of the skill of making $1 million is literally the difference between what I'm making now and what I could be making. People wildly undervalue how much more they could earn once they have the right skill. So, if you're the type of person who can follow instructions, show up on time, smile, be able to fail and keep going, and virtually any solid education you will like virtually any solid education will net you a positive yield. Sorry, English. Let me ask you this question. Would you pay 950 $100,000 to make $1 million and be able to make $1 million every year after that? That's a fucking insane deal, right? You pay it once and you keep the skill forever. Every year after that, you make $1 million. Like, duh, of course you would. Now, of course, like, once you make the $1 million a year, are you willing to give 100% of that to learn how to make $10 million a year? Of course you would. That's why education is by far the highest return. You can learn how to make $1 million a year for probably $200,000 in total. And that's just like me going to these seminars and knowing how much it is for coaching. And like, you'll probably spend 2,000 to 5,000 or even $30,000 chunks. But for some reason, people are willing to spend that on academia who, or my bad, some academic who hasn't been in the real world for the past 20 years. Someone on tenure who thinks that the world just hands you stuff because that's their government funded reality. Or you can just pay people who run real private businesses that actually do this stuff every single day. Here's the thing. I never paid for education, regardless of what it was, and not gotten more than what I paid for. Now, I don't want to confuse the fact that I've paid for things and I didn't think that they were worth the money to other people. But I always ask myself, okay, number one, how can I become the best student who's ever gone through this? How do I become this person's number one success story? My mindset is, yeah, I'll be your biggest success story. Then, once I am that person's biggest success story, is it because of them or is it because of me? And I think that's a choice you get to make. Am I going to be the number one success story or do I want to be right and prove that they're not good? Well, congratulations. You might prove that they're not good, but what does that leave you with? No skills and less money. If you choose to succeed anyways and ask, well, what can I learn from this person? You'll usually walk away with something. I've learned just as much from bad people or bad experiences, just as much as I've learned from good people. And a lot of times, getting good is actually just a removal of bad. If you figure out ways people do things terribly, it's also a wonderful way of figuring out how to not do those things. If you want to create a product that's exceptional, like, I don't know, say I want to put a phone, yeah, I want to put a phone, a camera, the internet, and the email all in one place. If I remove all the sucky parts of this product, guess what I end up with? I end up with a fucking iPhone. Some of the time, when you invest in yourself, you can get more than what you paid for. Let's get really tactical. If you want to double down on you, think about it like this. 10% improvement is what the S&P 500 returns on average. So you could take, I don't know, let's say you got like $10,000 saved up, which, by the way, puts you in the top 40% of Americans, and you put it into the S&P 500. Then a year later, you put $10,000, your $10,000, let's say that turns into like $10,900. Cool. It took you a year to make 900 bucks. Or you could spend that money on something that triples your earning capacity. So next year, instead of making $50,000, now you're making $50,000. Which one of those is bigger? The $50,000 bump is way more than a $900 difference. Even though you lost, I say with air quotes, $10,000 because you spent it all, did you really lose it, or did you invest in an asset that you can control? I don't know about you, but I'd rather have the extra $50,000 than that $10,000. And then what would I do next year? Well, I'm going to take this $50,000 and ask myself, huh, is there anything else I could put this $50,000 into? Sure, I could put the money into the S&P 500 and let's see, 10%, so that's $5,000 if it does return 10%. Or I could put that $50,000 into five $10,000 things, or two $25,000 things, and take my earning power from $10,000 to $250,000. Yeah, that's a fucking deal. But if I'm going to lose the whole $50,000 again, and so what I did, right, as I've been continuously growing on this way up, is I basically would take my savings every year and spend it on education. Why on earth would I want the future to take longer to get to me? When you buy skills, it's the closest approximation to buying time. There's this big belief that you can't buy time. That's false. You can buy the future at a discount by buying skills required to get me there faster. If it could take you 5 years on your own, or 1 year if you paid four different people to help you with the same step, with each of those same steps, why the fuck wouldn't you pay all the money you have to get there sooner and enjoy the 4 extra years in that new baseline? You're basically living 4 or 5 years into the future. It's like you skip from being 20 to 25 and you get that 25-year-old earning power, except you're still 21. Then you pull the next 5 years forward, and by the time you're 22, you're living like you're 30. And at that point, you might spend all your savings yet again. And that's something, I've done seriously over these past 5 years. How how do you become an expert? You do more repetitions than anyone else in the field, which also means that you failed more times than anybody else in that field. If you want to beat someone, just try 10 times harder than them. In reality, you might only need to try like 2 or 3 times harder, but you probably don't realize how hard they are trying. So aim for 10 times harder just to make sure you win. People reject the idea that someone can work 10 or 100 times harder, but I define work as output. To say someone can't produce 10 times what you produce is factually false. There are tons of people who can produce 10 times more and plenty who can produce 100 times more. The easiest example is a lot of departments work on a weekly cadence. They'll say, hey, do this one thing by the end of the week. But how many hours does that one thing really take? Often the answer is something like, oh, well, I could get this done in like 2, 3, 4 hours. So you say, okay, well, then get it done by noon. And at noon, you ask, well, what's the next thing? What's the next thing going to take? They'll say, I don't know, maybe another 3 or 4 hours. You can say, cool, well, I'll get it done by the end of the day. Now, from those 2 cycles, things that would normally take 2 weeks or 14 days, they actually just got done in 1 week. Right there, you produced 14 times more than a competitor who's working on a weekly cycle. That's how you drag the future into the present. If you're not focusing on how hard you're working, you're focusing on how much you're getting done. You'd be amazed at how much better you get after you've done something 100 times. If you want to win, do it again. I want to be clear. You don't just post 100 videos in a row and you see what happens. You post one, you see what works, and you do more of that thing. It's not just raw effort, it's raw effort with an improvement loop. I remember one of my favorite phrases that I learned from a sales training, right? Because selling is such a repetitive skill. Great. Do it again. Great job. Again. That repetition breeds the nuance of skill. You want it so ingrained that you no longer have to think about how to do it. Then it just becomes natural. And you can direct your attention to learning the next skill. So it's not just about learning how to do something once, it's about learning how to do something so many times that you don't even need to think about it anymore. Especially if you're starting out, your goal shouldn't be passive income, mainly because you don't have enough money for the passive part to mean anything, anyways. Instead, learn how to make money while you're awake before you try to make it while you're asleep. The Army has taught me this: crawl, walk, then run. Once you have more money than you can invest in your own education and skill acquisition, then you can put what's left into your passive income pool. So, very tactfully, here's what I suggest. You should have an investment or education investment budget. Let's say you lower expenses and you're making $1,000 a month. If you're not eating out, you're not buying new clothes, you're not spending money partying or wasting it in stupid ways, you'll have that extra $1,000 a month. You can take that money every month and either spend it on immediately, or you can spend it immediately on education, or you can save it for a pricier program. I did both. And a lot of what I learned from buying programs, seminars, and conferences didn't even come from the content itself. It came from the connections I made at the events. I was able to leverage the one skill I had, which is just me being me, and I would trade that skill with every person I met, collecting IOUs. So I could learn their skills, right? In other words, I just needed the ticket to get into the room. Then I could trade with everyone else to level up. As wild as this might sound, by the end of 2025, you could be dead broke, but rich in skills. Let me say that at the end of next year, you've got no money left, but now you have the ability to make more money. From the outside, right? People are going to go, oh, it looks like you lost everything. But you haven't. You still have the most valuable asset, knowing how to earn what you want. And that is something no divorce can take from you, no government can confiscate, like nothing. It stays with you till the day you die. We've eliminated everything that's bad. We've started something that's good. We've gotten better at being better. And now, finally, we've got to stick to it when it gets tough, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and it will be tough. Here's something that took me this is something that took me way longer than it needed to learn. Staying focused is like beating addiction. It's not a one-time victory. You will have to fight it all day, every day, and then congratulations, you get to wake up and do it again tomorrow. Because the thing that's going to distract you will change every single day. The triggers for your addiction to distraction will keep morphing and changing form, trying to steal your future, we'll call it. So you have to stay adaptable and fight it every single day. It's not enough to say, oh, well, I'll just be focused this week. You've got to wake up, or you've got to wake up on that eighth day, that ninth day, that 10th day, and you just got to keep fucking doing it again and again. And you remember that guy who got rich from drop shipping, day trading, buying crypto, wholesaling, and fuck something else all at the same time? Yeah, me neither. Focus. To win in business, you need to say no without remorse and hear no without losing enthusiasm. When I used to do a lot of in person training and I did consultations, I got told no quite a few times. But each no led me to a yes. And that means you have to keep failing or feeling the rejection, keep failing, keep going, and be willing to reject basically everyone else. It seems counterintuitive because you're right here thinking, man, I don't want to reject this person. I know what it feels like to be rejected. But you have to maintain that boundary so you can create the space to do your work. You need to be able to keep that boundary so you have the space to do what needs doing. There are a couple of lessons that I've learned over and over again throughout my career, ones that I've had to relearn. It's like fine wine. It gets better with age and there's more nuance to the flavor. I think focus is not just are you focused or not, it's how focused are you? You can measure someone's focus by the quantity and quality of things they say no to. As you get better, the more opportunities will emerge, which is interesting because when you're starting out, you can't see the opportunity anywhere, mostly because you just have so few skills, and thus few doors open to you. But once you do have a lot of skills, there are many opportunities in front of you that feel like you're missing out. Yet, the real opportunity is solving the problems right in front of you. In my own life, I got significantly better. If we measure by wealth, once I learned to say no and accept that I couldn't pursue all these things I knew I could crush, because once you realize how much actual work it takes to make something truly good, you see how few things you can realistically do in your entire life. That's why picking the right thing to focus on becomes so important. Right now, the stuff you have to say no to is the easy distraction, like fantasy football, beers with the boys, going out the clubs, whatever, right? But a year from now, once you have more skills, you'll see more opportunities, like multiple $10,000 a month ventures. And you'll have to say no to most of them so you can stick to your main gig. Then, when it turns into like $100,000 a month thing, you'll have to start getting multiple $100,000 a month offers, and you'll have to say no to those too. The thing is, these new opportunities always show you the upside, never the downside. You have to know where the skeletons are buried. You have to know where the bodies are at, right? If you don't, here's a visual I walk through every time I considered not doing something. You are here. You see a new opportunity there. Then you understand the downsides there. Then you live the downsides. Finally, you experience the upside and you achieve your goal. This is the starting point. Uninformed optimism. Next comes the informed pessimism. Then you will hit the valley of despair. And then, oh, now you start to understand it more. The problem is, a lot of people never push through to the upside, so they just keep jumping from one thing to another thing over and over again. The reason it takes so long is that you're in a rush. You have to keep starting from zero. But if you actually stick with it, that's the shortest way to get to where you want to go. It just takes longer than you think. Big things don't happen on small timelines. You might be thinking, huh, easy for you to say. You're over here, talking about all this shit. Well, let me tell you this. I guarantee you, I failed more times than you have probably tried. I've spent more time energy and money than you have, I've had a negative bank account. I've missed more payments more times than you could probably imagine. And honestly, it took me going through all that shit, and it took me a long time to have outside proof what I believed on the inside was real. I'll say it again because it kind of came out fucked up. It took me that long to have that outside proof that what I believed on the inside was real. Right now, nobody listens to my podcast cares about how long it took for me to get to just this point where I am at today. People quit when things get hard because the idea of something hard forever is unbearable. They'll assume that line will just go on that way forever, but it won't. Once you fully understand where all the bodies, the real problems, are buried, you can just start solving them one by one. That new distraction only seems appealing because you don't know what sucks about it yet. You might think you do, but you don't. This is where the difference between declarative and procedural knowledge comes in. And this is straight out of, academia. Declarative knowledge is knowing about something, like memorizing facts or how to read like private equity works. Procedural knowledge is knowing how something or like how to do something. People often mistake one for the other. So they'll watch 10 videos on how to do private equity, like a private equity deal, and think that that means they know how to do one. Or 10 videos on how to cold outbound or sales or whatever the fucking thing is. But you really don't learn until you do it. You learn far more from your first 100 cold out calls or door to door knocks than 100 books or 100 videos. The good news is nothing hard lasts forever. Ultimately, there are three things that can happen. You quit, it gets easier, you get better. No matter what, it always ends. I've learned this year that it doesn't really matter how fast you want to get something done. Everything happens on its own timeline. There are lessons that you need to learn along the way. You might be doing everything right, like working towards your goal, your mission, your purpose, your why, and yet you still can't reach that next level. You're like, man, what the fuck, dude? Like, I feel like I need to give up, but I've already been through so much and I've already learned so much shit. Like, and then bam, that's the thing, bro. That's it right there. You had to go through certain trials and tribulations before you could get to that next blessing, your next thing. I'll say it again. You have to go through certain trials and tribulations before you can get to that next lesson. Because if you don't go through all that and you get what you want too quickly, you'll fuck it up. And that's just the reality. You can picture life like a timeline. So over here is A, right? And way over there is B. But it's not just a straight line, though. There's A.1, and then A.2, and then A.3. You have to reach all these points before you finally get to B. Every day, you have the opportunity to choose the hard path. So whether that means like returning your weights back to the weight rack, or deciding between eating like fucking Twinkies or Little Debbie's, or like packing your meals instead of hitting McDonald's. You choose hard over easy, and you'll end up with an easy life. Choose easy over hard, and you'll have a hard life. So maybe you've just been bubble wrapped for way too long, like mom and dad like just took care of you for way too long, and they've always solved your problems for you. So you've never had to face adversity. Now the smallest bit of adversity feels like the end of the fucking world for you. You don't know how to solve the problems, so you think, I know what I'll do. I'll drink. I'll smoke. I'll watch porn. I'll watch TV. I'll doom scroll my fucking pain away. But that's not the answer, homie. I'm telling you this because if you're able to do these hard things, if you can face and overcome adversity, you become stronger, more resilient, and a better fucking person. Whew. Holy shit. All right. Bam. That's a wrap on today's episode. Remember, nothing hard lasts forever, and you've only got three outcomes when life throws you curveballs. That's going to be to quit, to wait for it to get easier, or to buckle down and get better. Every trial and tribulations are your ticket to the next level, so embrace it. Don't rush the timeline because you need every bump in the road to build the skills and resiliency that will keep you from fumbling your blessings. Keep choosing the hard path because easy choices make for a hard life. If you've been bubble wrapped from adversity, it's time to pop the seal and put in the work day in, day out. Ditch the distractions, focus on your mission, and remember, even if you feel broken on the outside, when you're rich in skills and mindset, nobody can ever take that away from you. Big thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Jeremy Jeruso podcast. Whether it is health, wealth, or mindset, the first step is always to just start grinding. Thank you all so much again. See you next time. Peace.